Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's FourthBrain info session. My name is James Van. I'm the Director of Career Services here at FourthBrain. If you're here on this call, you're probably a little curious to learn a little bit more about FourthBrain and how potentially FourthBrain can help you take your career in AI to the next level. My hope is today that we can share some information about how I work with students and that you will get a chance to hear from our alumni guests about their career journey, their experience overall, and perhaps get a little bit of an advice from them. I'm joined by three of our recent grads from our MLE program, Neha Ture, Angelica Wagner, and Chris Alexiak. We'll hear from them in a little bit, but before we do, I wanted to provide some basic information about our program, as well as the services that Career Services provides to all of our students. So, high-level overview of FourthBrain. We are a relevant, practical ML education platform. We are backed by Andrew Ng's AI Fund. We provide cohort-based learning and including an intensive capstone project, as well as dedicated career support. Our program structure is offered in a hybrid structure so that it offers flexible and accountability. One, we hear from incoming students that they need that structure and that accountability to keep them on track. But the hybrid structure allows people to maintain a full-time job while continuing to go through our program as well. The majority of our students are fully employed when they come through our program. The machine learning engineering program is a 16-week program with a mixture of video assignments as well as live instructions that typically take place on either Tuesday or Thursday or on Saturday mornings PST. As I mentioned, intensive capstone projects are part of the course. This is a great way for each of our students to apply their learning in a hands-on environment with the oversight of a small team, as well as the instructional team. It's also a great way for our grads to showcase their abilities and their skills to future or prospective employers. Some of our capstones we've loaded on our website, so you can go to fourthbrain.ai/capstone-projects to view some of the capstones that some previous students have done in the past. For more information, you can reach out to us through our website, but some of our upcoming start dates, our next machine learning engineering program starts on August 9th. The next ML Ops program starts on September 10th. Okay. Pivoting over to Career Services. My pledge to each of the students that comes into either of our programs. First and foremost, I will ensure that I put in all of my resources to make sure that you are job search ready. So what does that mean? That means that coming out of the program, you know what your focus is, you know roughly or concisely, depending on where you are in the program, how to put your efforts into an organized job search manner. You will also work with me on all of your marketing materials, resumes, LinkedIn profiles, GitHub, interviewing, and last but not least, salary negotiations. So typical traditional career services type, career coaching type activities, but my pledge to you is that you will be job search ready by the time you graduate from the program. Number two is that I pledge to bring industry into the classroom. Part of this is manifest in our weekly guest speaking series. So every Wednesday afternoon at 4 p.m. PST, we have a new guest speaker that we bring in from various companies across various industries to come and talk about stuff that they are doing within their company that is related to what you're learning in the classroom. So if you're learning about X, they might talk about how they are using X in their current companies to solve some of their biggest problems. And last but not least, I'm also here to help make connections. So for those of you that are looking for a new job after graduation, I will do a couple of things. One, I will make individual connections to those companies that are hiring people within my network, but also we have hiring events where we bring in people that are, especially companies that are looking to hire multiple people. They come in, have a virtual hiring fair where they introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their company culture, what it's like to work there, what the interview process is like, and what's the quickest way to get into their hiring pipeline so that you can start interviewing. How will I work with you? So a few different ways to accommodate various needs. Number one, individual attention. I make myself available for individual appointments. So everyone's got slightly different needs in terms of their timelines, but also their specific experience and how to apply some of their particular strengths towards their job search. So I make myself available for individual one-on-one appointments. There's no limit on how many times you can schedule appointments with me. Number two is that I like to harness the strength of our community to help uplift everyone in the group. So the example of this, or the best way that I can explain how this might work, is once you finish the program and you start into your job search, students tend to organize, or I help students organize into small job search groups. I help facilitate those groups, but we work in small groups to help solve some of our problems, and also keep each other accountable and also uplift each other to sort of make sure that we're all maintaining a good sort of mental state as we continue in our job search. Number three, I offer career services programming. So in the form of live weekly workshops, depending on the particular topic. They tend to be on Monday afternoons at 4 p.m. PST, but I run through those and it's a weekly session with a different topic every week, depending on where we are in the program. And last but not least, I also offer asynchronous content. So there is content that I've curated, especially for those people who want to read through some material on their own at their leisure. It's available 24/7 to try and accommodate those people that have specific needs, so they can access it when they want it, how they want to do. So the curriculum I've referenced already, but these are some of the key points in terms of where I, as your coach and facilitator, help focus your energies as you go through the program and also after the program. So identifying your focal point, creating marketing materials that will get you interviews, optimizing your job search plans that matches your needs and your particular timeline, and then helping you execute on that job search strategy. Okay, so with that, I would like to invite our alumni guests, Neha, Angelica, and Chris, to turn on your cameras, and I would like to introduce each of you. Chris, if I can start with you, maybe just a quick introduction, introduce yourself to the crowd.
Sorry, hey, what's up? My name is Chris. I took the machine learning engineering program at FourthBrain. I currently work in Toronto, Ontario, in the middle of a potential career transition though. Thanks, James. And yeah, that's who I am. That's where I'm from. What's up?
Cool. And thanks, Chris. Neha?
Hey, everyone. I also attended the machine learning engineer program and I graduated in May this year. So right now I'm working as a machine learning engineer and I got this opportunity at my current organization with the help of everything that FourthBrain has provided, James has provided. I'm still on the lookout for new opportunities. I'm interviewing right now and I'm excited to be here. So hi.
Thank you, Neha. Angelica, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Angelica. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I did the machine learning engineering program that just finished in May. And this month I'm doing a short course MLOps program with FourthBrain, which is super exciting. And I'm also transitioning careers right now. So I've been working as a data analyst, and I'm currently interviewing for machine learning engineering and also data scientist roles. And yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, Angelica. First question for you all. Thank you for sharing a little bit about your background. Perhaps coming into the program, did you potentially have any doubts or reservations about, like, switching into a career, or, what was your mindset coming into the program? Potentially Chris, Chris, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So it's one of those things where any change is scary, no matter what people tell you, even if it's really good change. And so being in a place for a little while, or getting used to a particular skill set and then taking a leap to change it, I did have some reservations about how that transition would look, how it, would I be able to do it? Is it attainable? These kinds of things. And so absolutely, yeah, definitely had some reservations on that how to transition piece. So
thanks, Chris. Neha, what was your mindset coming into the program? Did you have particular goals or ambitions coming in?
Yeah, so I was trying to transition into machine learning engineer roles from, it was like more than a year of trying. And I was coming from a software engineering background. I had not done a lot of programming in the recent times. I was doing application support work, accessibility work. So this was kind of like my last attempt. I would really say that let me just give it my best. I have already taken so many courses. So let's just see how this goes and see.
Yeah, Neha, you bring up a good point, which is, I think, a common thing that we hear, or at least that I hear from students coming into the program is, hey, I took this course and I tried this and I learned this little bit here, but maybe coming into this course will help, A, give me the structure, and B, help me put that all together.
Yeah.
Is that something that does that sort of, similar to your mindset, or? Neha?
Hello.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me?
yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what was happening. So most of the courses that I took, they were individual learning based. Yes, there were some career services that were provided, but still there was something lacking. And with this cohort based course, I found that interacting with others who are in the same boat as me, or if they are in like different phases of their journey, I was able to learn more from them, more from my classmates. Yes, instructions was very, very good, but yeah, the kind of discussions we had in the class, in the live sessions, and then in the live assignments, that was a major thing. And then the industry talks, so like it made me feel that I belong in this area. That was the turning point for me, and that's what really helped me.
Great, thank you for sharing. I've got a question from the group. Joaquin asks, how close or how far were each of you from the MLE field when you started the course? So maybe just like from each of you, a quick kind of like, hey, where you were at before the program, and where are you interviewing, or what's your target field after the program? Angelica, we can start with you.
Yeah, so some my background is in economics. So like I learned some statistics and like linear regression, logistic regression, like those things like were covered, had a little bit of base knowledge there. But the last few years, like I was working as a data engineer, right? So it's a lot of the building data pipelines, building reports, and I knew almost zero about machine learning. And there's very sort of high level about traditional machine learning. So I think that was my knowledge coming in. And then also not having very strong software skills, right? So like just not at the level that an MLE would need it. And that's really what I learned at FourthBrain is like, now I'm super comfortable with the standard machine learning algorithms. Like I can explain them. I've been able to explain them in interviews that I've been having. Also like understand now what deep learning is, what convolutional neural networks are, transformers, recurrent neural networks, like all the stuff I didn't know anything about beforehand. And I also feel a lot more comfortable like setting up my environment, setting up virtual environments, how to structure projects, like all this practical stuff that you need on the job that I have not been able to find in any of the other like online courses that I've taken. And so, yeah, I think this program has offered a lot and I've learned a lot.
Thank you, Angelica. Chris, I'll popcorn over to you next.
Yeah, so I was working as a data scientist already, so I kind of had some of the core skills under my belt. I really wanted to upskill or transfer skill into MLE specifically, though, and so that was a large motivation for participating in the course. But I started off as a data scientist.
Right. And do you feel like the course has sort of helped you prepare for, transitioning into MLE?
Absolutely, yeah. The world of data science is a lot of playing around and tinkering in notebooks. And the world of MLE is a lot of building and solutions architecting. And so I feel like that FourthBrain very much did help me prepare for those more construction or build based tasks that you're going to see a lot more of in MLE.
Right. Thank you. And Neha, I think you sort of touched upon this, but I'll give the mic back to you to sort of respond to that initial question of like what you were doing before the program and what you're doing now and which which types of roles you're interviewing for.
Yeah, so just before the program, I had done, like a year back, I had done a master's in business analytics. But before that, I was doing application support and some software development, software engineering, every kind of roles I was doing. So it was a true transition for me from very different field to machine learning. So I was not aware of all the algorithms and how to exactly go about that end to end, like the machine learning life cycle. And this program helped me get that understanding and like how to actually apply that. And it has really helped me in my current role, actually preparing for the current role. And even referring to some of the material right now in my work, and that continuously helps me. And I'm preparing for machine learning engineer roles at anywhere, and I'm interviewing for those roles right now. So yeah, it has really helped me.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Next big question for each of you. And I think with the exception maybe of Chris, each of you are still interviewing quite a bit right now. Perhaps you can sort of share a little bit about what your interview experience has been like so far coming out of the program. Angelica, let's start with you.
Trying to think interview experience. So I think what's sort of helpful, like especially with FourthBrain, like the interviews that I've had the most success and enjoyed the most were actually the ones where like I had a connection with FourthBrain, like either James helping or a hiring event. And so yeah, trying to think about, like I guess what's been nice is having like all support, not having to do it by myself, and I'm sort of like in the final rounds now, and that's sort of exciting, and just it's a learning progress, right? So interviewing, it is intimidating, I think, and sort of a little bit scary, but sort of once you get started and you get the feedback, it's a lot easier to do the next rounds. And just also as James mentioned, having those job search groups has also been like really helpful in having all that support, and yeah, sort of in the final rounds now and getting excited about the new opportunities.
Cool. Chris, maybe you can share a little bit about like what the interview experience has been like. Maybe, although we know that no two companies are exactly alike, but what can, incoming students kind of roughly expect when they start interviewing for ML roles?
Yeah, so I mean, it's for me, the interviewing process has been exactly as Angelica described, a learning process. Interviewing is a skill that you have to get good at. It's not something that you can just wing or come in prepared for. But for me, when I compare the interview experience across company, I think there are some kind of consistent parts. Number one is that you're always going to run into a screener. You're always going to run into a kind of semi-behavioral as one of your first few steps, where you've got to just talk to somebody, talk about what you did, talk about what you want to do, see if there's that good fit. And then the technical assessment still for a lot of these roles is those kinds of LeetCode code style questions or programmatic test little assessments. Sometimes you get them that are they're more tailored for the actual role. So you might get like a data engineering problem or a machine learning problem or a quick kind of case study. But for the most part, you're going to see the classic software interview pipeline, which includes kinds of those LeetCode code style questions. And then usually you'll have like a really in-depth technical interview where they talk about projects, how those projects helped you, what skills you needed for those projects. And then hopefully you move on to the final and an offer. But the skeleton is the same. It feels like, to me at least, across most of the industry. It's just the number of rounds or the exact subject matter in each of those boxes you can imagine that changes a little bit.
And if I can add something to that, what's also been useful is like having the capstone project to talk about that. So like that's something like we have the GitHub repository, we can display it. Like we actually had a demo application live, and it's like really nice to like you're able to show like what you're doing, and that's what I didn't have before joining FourthBrain, and now I have this like awesome project that I can show off. And maybe also to add, since I've interviewed for MLE, but also data science positions. And so for what I noticed for data science, it's often a little bit less of the LeetCode questions. So there you might get, like I've done like a test that's proctored, right? So you have a camera on and that kind of stuff. And I've also had like with the hiring manager, like just walk through a notebook and do live coding and that kind of stuff. So if you look more for a data science role, there might be a little bit less of the LeetCode, but on the MLE side, definitely, yeah, you need to know that.
Cool, thank you. Switching gears a little bit, and maybe this is asking for each of you to think back over the last few months. And Neha, I'll start with you. Of the career workshops that you attended that I put on, was there one that felt, particularly impactful for you in your job search?
So for me, all of it was very impactful, very useful. However, in particular, the marketing materials that you had us prepare, I think that journey started from the first session itself. You exposed us to a few questions that start thinking about these. So that was the most important thing that like later on culminated into improving my resume and LinkedIn profile. The LinkedIn session, that was the best for me in terms of like getting recruiters to reach out to me, the right recruiters for right roles. So I think the LinkedIn session worked best for me.
Thank you. Popcorn over to you, Chris. What sort of stuck out a little bit from the workshops that you attended?
I think the one it's not necessarily the whole workshop for me, but it was one piece of the workshop, which is where you kind of talked about the funnel. It's something that like I think intuitively makes sense, but seeing it represented in a beautiful little funnel shaped picture really helped hit home the amount of legwork you've got to do in order to get to an offer, right? Like this idea that at every stage you're reducing so much, right? It's that workshop where we talked about the funnel and talked about, volume versus necessarily spending like 7 hours on one application, like that completely changed my job search strategy, and it made it immediately much better. So
great to hear. Angelica, what stood out for you?
Yeah, sort of like what Nea and Chris were saying. I think just having a strategy. I think in the past, like, oh, I saw a posting online and applied to one job and maybe another month somewhere else, but just really like having like know where you're going and having a strategy. I think that's been really helpful. And I also think the very first exercise, James, you had us do was like sort of think about our narrative, right? So like what sort of been our past, what skills can we use in the future, where do we want to go? And it's not just, I think just as helpful for talking interview, it's like it's been helpful for myself to kind of figure out like, what is it actually that I want, and just having that goal. I think that's been like, yeah, super helpful.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. And next sort of a career question. I promise I will get to some of the questions that are coming in through YouTube Live. So be patient. I'll get to them in a little bit. The small job search groups that we organize, and we put those together for once you guys graduate, and you kind of like, help each other in your job search. It's a little bit unorthodox potentially, because I'm not sure that every school does this. But maybe Chris, if I can start with you, maybe you can give kind of like a quick description or like overview of essentially what it is that we do on a weekly basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say something a little bit tongue in cheek here, but just to be clear, it's extraordinarily helpful. But it's kind of like a weekly support group. Like these groups, what they really are is they're a place where you can safely share your experiences in job searching, tips and tricks you find to work, or you found that others found to work. We all put into practice what James has kind of told us will work. But then hearing from your colleagues like, hey, I tried this strategy and it actually worked, it's so helpful in terms of really believing and being able to embody that advice. And then on top of that, like, job searching is a mental game a lot of the time. It's keeping your confidence up, it's staying in it. And those weekly sessions help extraordinarily to keep the hype up, to keep the, hype train's got to roll, man. So I think for me, that's like a brief overview of how I view those sessions.
Thanks, Chris. And Angelica and Neha, you two are actually in the same group. So I'll let you, the two of you, I'll let you two, maybe we can start with Angelica. Tell us a little bit about what your group has looked like, and kind of what's the mood and how that's helped you guys so far.
So a lot of similar to what Chris has already been telling. So we're a small group of 3 people, and we're meeting once a week. And a big part of it is really just the support, right? So what's happened this week? What are the struggles? And it might be like job search directly, or maybe job search adjacent, right? Why, this week didn't go so well because I had so much else going on with my job, or like, whatever else. So it's just a lot of that uplifting. And then also just hearing other interview experiences, right? So that's also useful, and exchanging like what type of questions have I gotten, or like this interviewer asked me this question, I had no idea how to answer it, and sort of like get feedback of like, how would you guys have answered it, that kind of stuff. And then sort of how since we're all sort of moving with the same cohort, we're in similar stages, so it's sort of nice to first, like, how do you talk to recruiter, and then we start talking, how do we do technical interviews, and sort of like going through that. And it's just super, something I actually wasn't aware of when I joined FourthBrain was they will be able to have the career support afterwards. And I think that's just been super helpful. Like, it's not like you finish the program and now you're on your own, because while you're doing the program, like a lot of people, like, you're doing full-time jobs and then doing that program, maybe like having other family obligations. It's like, and doing a job search on top of that. So it's like, wasn't that much, or at least for me, and I know a lot of other people, not that much job search activity throughout the program. And so it's just nice, like, you're not just finished and now you're on your own, like you still have that ongoing support. And that's been, great and super helpful.
Yeah, and sometimes you feel like, okay, I cannot do this week, but then you will get a ping from James, or maybe you will get something from Angelica. So yes, I have to finish this. I have to finish it this week so that I stay on track for this particular interview or the entire process. I think that was what's helping me right now.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I love my job and just about everything that comes along with it. But I think for me personally, those weekly meetings are probably the favorite part of my day, just because I get to kind of check in with all of you. But there's just such rich, discussion usually. And sometimes it's actually not that rich. It's just like, catching up with each other and, like, hey, how are things going with you as a person and whatnot? Kind of like what Chris was mentioning earlier about, like, it's a mental game. So sometimes it's just checking in on each other and seeing how you're doing. And, gives me an opportunity to really kind of like not only see how people are doing, but also interact and see how the group members are holding each other accountable. Because, we move as a group, and so everyone sort of tends to benefit. So for me, that's a very gratifying sort of a thing. Okay, so let's go to some of the questions that we had. So we have Human of Augustana. Have students tried to teach themselves before going through the MLE program? I think we touched upon this a little bit, but maybe you can clarify. Like, in other words, did you try and do this on your own and then like, oh shoot, like I've just got to do the program instead, kind of thing? Start with you, Angelica, go ahead.
Yes, so I've definitely done it on and off, and I've like taken Coursera class. Yeah, I think mostly Coursera classes, and there's also like some other online classes available. So I've done those, bought some machine learning books myself, and yeah, for some time, like, was taking them for a few weeks, but then there's something else that comes up and I was dropping it again, and also not having that support, and so I just dropped my thought. But yeah, so I've attempted that, and that's why I decided to join FourthBrain. That was actually one of my hesitations too, right? Is because there is so much free stuff like available that you could do, but just that accountability was like really important, and that helped me a lot. So yeah, I did attempt, but the bootcamp has helped a lot.
Neha, over to you. Same question.
Yeah, I also took several Coursera courses. Then there was a Udacity Nano degree I completed. I took a lot of cloud certifications in different directions. But like how to bring it all together, I learned that from FourthBrain.
Chris?
Yeah, you bet. Very similar kind of thing. Did a few classes in school, did a few classes, tried to take some courses in Coursera and, these other kind of MOOCs, right? So, but I always found what was missing is, just like the other two said, right? People is kind of a big part of the experience for me. Networking, learning from other people, getting an actual expert to talk to, all these things really, were able to crystallize a lot of the things that I had learned or was putting into practice, but wasn't figuring out what the line of sight was to the MLE side, right, versus the DS side. So really helped to talk to people who are doing the job and learn from them, as opposed to just learning from the screen by itself.
Great, thank you. Another question coming from YouTube Live. Rajam, I come from data engineering side with an MS in statistics. I have a long time aspiration to become an ML or data science engineer. Can this program help me achieve my goal? I'll open it up to the three of you.
My impression is yes. My experience was that I was DS before this, and I will be MLE after this. So at least in some respect, it must have, right? Like it has to be true. But I believe that a more serious answer is for sure. I think that if you have the background and what you're missing is the build piece, what you're missing is the, like Neha said, how do we put this together now? How do we deploy it? How do we do all those steps that maybe you're relying on other people to do in your current roles? I think this program helps a lot with those aspects. So yes.
Angelica?
Everything that Chris said. Yeah, definitely. And already having like the data engineering and statistics background like is going to help a lot. And so yeah, so I think that's going to help a lot, and just having that applied side. So that's been I think that will be super helpful, and having also the instructors, right? They're also like working in the industry and sort of getting more that applied side, I think is going to be really helpful and should definitely be doable. And with that background, sounds like it should be a good success.
Yeah, I would say, Rajan, to comment on your question personally, as we take a look at overall high-level view of students coming into the program, there's certain buckets where we put people in terms of like, what their overall experience is. So we have a lot of people that are currently what I would consider to be data practitioners, right? So they're either a data analyst or data scientists who come into the program. So that's one big bucket. Another big bucket that I would put into is some sort of a software engineer. And if I'm reading into your data engineering experience there, my guess is that you have pretty strong software engineering skills, which would those skills would lend pretty well towards translating towards an ML career. And so we have quite a few people that come through with strong software engineering skills that are successful in going through the program. Okay. Next question comes from Chris Fortes. Question for alumni. Knowing what you know today, what do you wish you knew or wish someone had told you at the start of the MLE course? Chris, you're smiling already. It looks like you're just like ready to go.
Yeah, like if I could go back in time, I would convince myself to push things into production, actually build them and build them a lot. I think that when I was starting my journey, I was very much obsessive about learning and figuring out how everything works and looking at it and reading about it and watching videos about it and attending lectures. But what really changed, what flipped the switch for me is just building over and over again, building a project from start to finish. If I could go back in time, I would tell myself, like, it doesn't matter if it's not good, put it up, put it out. That's the best way to learn these kinds of skills. And so, yeah, that would be my biggest advice to myself.
Neha, same question to you.
Yeah, so I would say that I would contribute more to open source projects on GitHub, because that will build my profile further. I should have done that at the beginning of this course, because that's when I had really started building better things. So yeah, contributing to GitHub more.
Great advice. Angelica?
Yeah, very, very similar, like not waiting for the perfect project to publish it, but yeah, it's like the little steps along the way to do that a lot more, and just getting hands-on experience. It's like this iterative process. That's what machine learning itself is, right? You start out with a baseline and make it like more and more complex. And I think it's the same with any learning, and even with the projects, like start out with the little projects and then build it up and are open to sharing.
Yeah, I think the three of you bring really sage advice, because my experience in dealing with hiring managers, or at least getting feedback after people have gone through the interview process, there are a few things that are pretty consistent in terms of positive feedback that I hear. And this is aligned with one of those positive things. Like, yes, I interviewed this person and I went through and I looked through their GitHub profile and look at all the cool stuff that they were doing and they were tinkering with and they were building. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but A, it gives them a glimpse into sort of like your overall ability, but B, which sometimes can be just as important, which is that it shows your motivation, right? If you're doing this sort of like on your free time, you're tinkering with stuff, you don't really necessarily have to like tell people that you're motivated to do the work, because you can just literally open up your GitHub and show them all the cool stuff that you do maybe outside of your job and on your free time. So that oftentimes is something that resonates really well with hiring managers. So Cool. This question, I think, okay, a similar question from AG, but I think we can sort of, we may have answered it. Software engineer with 15 years of work experience thinking of taking this course. Will this help me transition to become an ML engineer? My sense is that we've answered that question, that it should, but if there's anything that, I want to open it up if you guys have anything that you wanted to add to that. Consensus is, sorry, go ahead.
It was just a go ahead. The thing is, you have a lot of groundwork ready. So you just have to learn more, and you should definitely be able to transition very well into the field.
Yeah, I agree. Another question.
I would say just, sorry, James, just to add a little bit.
Ahead.
I would say like as well, having the software engineering skills, having the good code practices, having the ability to build well-structured, well-designed, programs, that's a huge advantage to transitioning into this field, right? That's something that they're not going to have to teach you or train you how to do. And so that should be, I think you'll find it very helpful. And then actualizing some of that with the ML skills themselves is going to really, elevate you to the next level over someone who's just coming in with SWE.
Mm-hmm. And that's sort of like a current problem right now, right? So often in companies, data scientists build models, build them in notebooks, and data scientists traditionally are not trained software engineers. And so it's often a real struggle getting those into production. So if you already have that strong software engineering skills, I think that's going to be a really competitive advantage. If you then also add the ML side to it, you can kind of bridge the gap between the data science and productions. I think that's going to be very valuable.
Okay, so question answered. So the consensus is AG, yes, that your skills and background will lend themselves well to a transition to ML, and that your software engineering experience is something that you would definitely want to leverage going forward as you're engaging with employers on the other side for ML roles. Great. Another question from Ying. In terms of day-to-day work, would you say MLE is closer to software engineers or data science? Angelica, go ahead. Or yeah,
Sorry.
Angelica, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, Nia, you went first, I think.
I was just going to say it depends on what phase of the project you are in. At that time, maybe you are just in the learning phase. You are doing the groundwork, preparing yourself to get ready with the data scientist work. Or else, if you are in the next phase, you have already your model, at least a baseline model ready. Maybe you are preparing to do more of the deployment related work. And so I would say that phase would be software engineering kind of work. So it depends what phase you're in.
I think it often depends on the company too, right? Are you in a very small company where you're expected to do almost everything from data engineering to modeling to putting things into production? Or are you working at usually at a bigger company that's more mature already on their machine learning journey, and they have like more separated roles? So I think that also makes a big difference. So it's getting more defined, but there's still a lot of variability of what the different job titles entail.
Yeah, that piece is like turbo important. Really pay attention to the job description. Your day-to-day, the place that ML is in right now is pretty loosely defined in terms of roles and what their actual functions are. And so really pay attention to the job description to help you and ask questions in the interview process, right? But there's not a really catch-all answer here because it, like Angelica and Neha said, it's so dependent on both the company, the phase of the project, what do they perceive MLE as versus what do they perceive DS as? Right now, it's undefined territory, right? So it's hard to say exactly, but MLE, hopefully you're closer to SWE than you might be to DS.
Cool. Thank you for that. And my particular last question for you all coming from me, and I think there's another one coming in from the YouTube channel. Something that I've noticed just personally in coaching, you know, a lot of people through a career transition where you're coming in with a specific set of skills and you're doing something either similar or radically different than what you've done before. And that observation is sometimes that people can know their skills, but when it comes to the interview, they sort of have challenges dealing with their confidence level. Like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, or worried about, you know, going in on day one of the job and actually living up to the standards that they're beholden to. Have any of you kind of, you know, felt this, and what's your sort of experience been like sort of dealing with that? I guess the official term is imposter syndrome, but Chris, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, of course. It's the bogeyman that we can't escape, right? Like, it's this field is so technical and impressive, and the crazy things that you can do with machine learning, you know, it's hard to not feel like unconfident sometimes, because you're like, well, there's so much impressive stuff in the world, and then you think about, this is a team of people that are building these things. It's never just one, you know, intense hacker man kind of situation. So I think ultimately what you've got to do is rely on the people that you know and who know you. You know, base your confidence level off of that energy, right? If you have people telling you that, hey, be confident, you've got this, you can do it, just turn everything in here off and listen to that for a while, and go into the interview with that messaging. And then after the interview, you can let the imposter syndrome back in for a little while and, you know, breathe through it, you know. So
Awesome, thank you. Neha, same question to you.
Oh yeah, it totally feels like that. So the technical interview I took recently, it was like 1 in 2 or 3 years, I would say. It was such a long time. So I was going crazy before the interview. I was feeling all these things, imposter syndrome, I won't know anything. But you just have to think that you have gone through so much, you have learned so much, it will come to you. So that's how it will go smooth. And then in day-to-day activities, like how Chris said, talk to people. That is one of the most important thing, that talk to your colleagues, talk to others who are going to use this product or project or this piece of code. Talk to them, understand how everything works with each other. Maybe talk to the manager, like what is their expectations from you. I think we talked about this in a session, that okay, 30-day goal, 60-day goal, 90-day goal, and like keep re-evaluating those things. And that is how it helps in getting through day to day and the imposter syndrome.
Great, thank you. Angelica, anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, also totally felt it, and keep feeling the imposter syndrome. And yeah, what's been helpful is really just having the community, right? Being able to share that and sort of getting the feedback of like, no, you actually like, did this really good in the project, or I see like you have that strength. Just hearing that from other people really helps. And I think another advice I got from somebody is like, because another part of imposter syndrome could be like, oh, like now you actually do get the offer, you get hired, you start working, and it's like, oh no, like soon they're gonna figure out like I don't know anything and stuff. And it's just sort of the advice I got is like, trust like the hiring managers, like they know what they're doing, right? They've seen you in the interview, they've asked you like the questions, and if like you answered honestly, I mean, trust them that they know how to evaluate your skills, and if they think they want you for that job, then yeah, you're going to be good enough. And then just remembering all the situations in the past, right, where I've been thrown into a new situation, and it's like didn't know nothing. It's like, how am I ever going to learn this? And just sort of like, yeah, start slowly, step by step when you get there. And then you look back a few weeks or a few months later, and it's like, oh wow, you've come so far. And just sort of remembering like you've done it in the past, you're going to do it again in the future.
Yeah, I like the answers. There's a little bit of, you know, just have faith in yourself. Maybe to Chris's point, like just turn off the turn out the brain for a little bit, like turn off the noise a little bit, but also leaning in on your community, the people, the FourthBrain community, to sort of help you out, talk to other people, engage with other people, get feedback, because there's a richness in the classroom and in our community that is oftentimes helpful. Something that I commonly tell people, the common distinction that I see is the distinction between I can't do this and I can't do this yet. And sort of like that mindset of like, yeah, I don't know everything, but I'm going to figure it out pretty soon. Like oftentimes just, changing that slight little bit of mindset is super helpful for people to sort of acknowledge that they don't know it yet, but they'll get there. So
James, you're giving away the tips for free, man.
Yeah. Well, not all of them. Still got a few. Okay, so another question from Gage Sowell. How can someone leverage non-software but technical background like chemical engineering or getting into an MLE or DS role? I'll put that out there too. I've got some thoughts, but I'd love to hear from our alumni panel first. Chris, go ahead.
All right. Listen, guys, machine learning is a tool. It's a very well-built, impressive tool, but it's like a scalpel, right? It's at the end of the day, if you have the domain experience, if you have the domain knowledge, right? That's going to be just as helpful, or even in some cases more helpful in terms of how to apply the tool, right? As someone who is good at ML, it's like, yeah, you're great at using the tool, but that finesse and extra little added bonus knowledge of the domain it's immeasurably valuable. Like the idea that you don't have those technical skills yet, as James just was referencing, this kind of a program helps you take the domain knowledge you have and then learn how to apply it through the tool that is machine learning. So, from a non-technical domain expert kind of place, I think you're very well positioned to move into those kinds of ML adjacent or ML focused roles.
Mm-hmm. And I also think having the domain knowledge gives you the advantage that you're probably more likely to come up with a good business case, right? So if you know machine learning but have no idea how to apply it and where to create value, it's like there's just no point in it, right? So you need to come up with a problem that you want to solve, and I think that's sort of unique for the domain experts. That's their advantage. And then also a big part of it is also data preparation of the whole modeling part. So it's sometimes the modeling is actually simpler than all the data prep and feature engineering, and that's also where somebody with domain knowledge has a real advantage.
Cool. All right. So we've got a few minutes left. And I want to open it up to our alumni panel. Kind of if you've got like one last thing that you feel like you would add value that you wanted to share with prospective students. One last bit of advice that you'd like to share. Go ahead. Neha, let's start with you.
Okay. Can I just say the informational interviews? Talk to as many people as possible. Those connections you make, the kind of knowledge you gather from them, it definitely helps in long run in getting a job offer or maybe making more connections through them. It is very helpful. It has helped me. So I just go by that. I'll take any more informational interviews whenever possible.
That's great advice, and that's true advice, because I remember, sort of talking about informational interviews in one of my workshops, and Neha just embraced that. And I remember a few days later, she slacked me and said, hey, I just had an informational interview with this person, and it was great, and I learned this, and I learned that, and it was just like, yes, it was awesome.
That was best.
Cool. Angelica, your last bit of advice.
I think it's more FourthBrain in general sort of advice I want to give, because it's before I decided to sign up for FourthBrain, I watched one of those info sessions, And I remember one of the graduates saying like, sort of, if you're thinking about it, just sign up. And I was so like, that was sort of one of the key moments where I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. And so I'm just going to throw it out there to the people listening too. So if you're sort of like in a situation where I've been doing a lot of self-study, but not quite knowing where to go, just for a personal experience, like it's been just super helpful joining FourthBrain, like having the community. I think that's the biggest value, having the support from all the other students, from the staff members, from the teachers, TAs, and then just career services, right? Because like I wanted to switch careers and think that's what a lot of people joining FourthBrain want. And that was just something that's, yeah, that's just like a big advantage, having the career service throughout the program and then after the program and the strong alumni network. And so, yeah, if you're thinking about it, just do it.
Thank you. And Chris, bring us home.
Yeah, like this is gonna be the best advice that I could have got when I started the program is listen to James and don't not listen to James. James is a guy who really cares somehow about all the people that he interacts with. It must be exhausting for you, man. But if you listen to someone who has that kind of that wisdom and that knowledge of the job search component, right? Like it's a totally different skill. You could be the best ML practitioner in the world and not know how to interview. And so listen to that guidance and advice that you get from him, career services, and your peers. And you're gonna go further than you ever thought that you could. So
You'll go from no calls to so many calls from recruiters.
Yeah.
That's what James will help you get.
How can I resist the urge to end on that note? Thank you to our alumni panels. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Matt Gore, behind the scenes, for running things. Thank you all for attending today. Just a quick reminder, our upcoming start dates, the MLE program, our next start date is August 9th, and the ML Ops program is September 10th. If you have additional questions, comments, reach out to us through the website and we will make sure that your questions are answered. If you want to have additional time to talk to me, to talk a little bit about like what your job prospects are, how I work, check in, reach out through us through the website, and they'll make sure that you're connected to me and we can set up at a time to talk one-on-one. Okay. Thank you all again for attending. Have a great day and hope to see you all soon. Thank you so much.